What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So I'm out here in the shop tonight. I'm working on something on this tractor that I bought a year and a half ago that I've been meaning to get around to, but I've been putting it off because I knew it was going to be a pain and just really didn't want to do it. And I haven't been hooking and unhooking the implements very much, so it hadn't been that big of an issue. But the second you start trying to hook and unhook an implement, it becomes an issue. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So these are telescopic, I guess you would call them 3-point ends on the ends here. And the idea is that that locks in that notch right there. Whenever you want to hook up to an implement, you pull up on this right here and slide this out anywhere in here, and then you slide this on your pin. It makes it easier to hook up because the implements for this tractor, just about anything you're hooking up to on a tractor this big is probably going to weigh 1,000 pounds plus, and you're not going to be moving it around. You know, it ain't like the little compacts where you can reach down and grab your implement and slide it around and do something with it. You're not moving it. So if these do not telescope, it's very difficult to get an implement hooked up, to say the least. The people that owned this tractor before I got it apparently never used the 3-point hitch. And these were froze up, so they would not come out. And I knew it was going to be fun to get them out. Anyway, you can see all the dust, all this junk that's came out of here. It's taken me about 4 hours to get these freed up. And I started out, I tried to put a little heat on them with the weed burner there. Started out working on this one, and I carried it out there and put a bolt through the ball here, put a chain around it, hooked it on the back of my 18-wheeler and snatched on it some, and I put a bolt up under this latch, obviously, so that it wasn't latched in, and I tried to snatch on it, and I couldn't get it to budge, so I tried to back up to the bumper on the trailer and bump it, you know, let the tractor come back and hit it to drive it in, trying to break it loose. And did not have a whole lot of success. I did not want to get, you know, real rowdy with it. I was snatching on it about third gear, probably about a 3 miles an hour snatch. And I didn't want to, you know, snatch too hard and break the pin off of the tractor up here, because it's just a little pin right here. And so I didn't want to break that off. So I came back in the shop and heated these up with the weed burner torch here we got, as much as I could without, you know, melting the tires and catching the tractor on fire. You got to be real careful with that thing, puts out a lot of heat. So I got back over here behind it like this and was heating it up, and I just beat on it with a 4-pound hammer. You can see the damage I've done to that right there. I'm trying to get this this ball in right now to swivel. It'll swivel if I heat it up. I think I've got it. It's still hot right now. I think I've got it where it's still okay, but I'd beat on it to the point it's kind of mushroomed that end, and that ball didn't want to turn in there. But the reason I say they never use this, because there's no slack in these balls. I mean, very little whatsoever. And this is all corroded up like this. And if you look at the drawbar pin's what they were using, because it's walled out. So anyway, I don't think they use the 3-point very much. So by not using it very much, these never got moved in and out. Evidently they never put any kind of lubrication in there or anything like that, and they froze up, and all this corrosion and crud was up in there in the slot and up in there, making these things stiff and impossible to move. So that's what I've been working on, heating it up, beating it with a hammer. I tried to spray some PB Blaster in there. That doesn't really do a whole lot of good on something that's froze up like this. What I found the best thing is the heat and vibration, and get that by a weed burner torch and a big hammer, generally speaking. But so that's what I've been working on. So if you own a tractor that has telescopic ends, don't let these things set up in there and just never do anything with it, because eventually you won't be able to get them apart. And you'll be out here like I'm doing. So I would recommend, pulling them out occasionally just to keep them free. And I don't think I would put grease on there because that's going to make more stuff collect in there and get packed in there. Maybe a silicone spray or something, a lighter, something lighter. Lubricant may be okay. I'm not sure what they recommend, but as long as you, keep them freely moving, hooking and unhooking implements, they should be okay. But when you let it set up like this, outside, and then you let dirt and stuff get in there and water and corrosion, it just turns into a big mess. And like I say, I've been putting this off. Didn't want to do it. I knew it was going to be a pain, and it's been a half a day ordeal, and I've earned two big bolts that I had by sticking in there and beating on them. But that's the only way I figured out how to do it, to get them loose. And I've beat on these so much I've got blisters on both my hands, and took several breaks in between. I'm surprised I hadn't broke the hammer there the way I was swinging it. But I finally got them loosened up, and they move in and out like they're supposed to. They're still a little bit warm. I mean, it's supposed to be just a very easily slide it out, hook your implement up, and they're supposed to slide back in. And everything, this stuff's still coming out of there. But I will, I'm going to spray something up in there, maybe a silicone lube or something. So if anybody wants to recommend, a lubricant or something that you think would work well in there, or if there's something that you use on your tractor and, seems to work good, leave it in the comments. I don't think it'd be a good idea to put grease in there because grease is going to collect dirt. And if you're doing dirt work with a tractor, disking, even bush hogging, all that sand and dirt is just going to stick in there, and it's probably going to freeze that thing up if I had to guess. They may not recommend putting anything on it. I'm not sure. It seems like some kind of silicone or something to, just to help it a little bit and keep from getting rust on it would seem to be great to me. Also, keep your top link bar there greased or something on it. This one's got grease alamites on it. Most of them do not, but every so often you can unscrew it and put something on that to keep it free, because they will freeze up as well if you don't. If you leave just one implement hooked up and you never change it, chances odds are, time that dirt gets in them threads, you won't be able to move it. So that's a few tips that I've learned and whatnot. So I figured I'd share that. And if you do buy a tractor like I did that it's froze up, the telescopic links is froze up, well, a weed burner torch and a big hammer is your friend. That weed burner torch comes in handy for a lot of stuff like this when you need to put a lot of heat in kind of a broad area. A rosebud and oxygen acetylene works better if you're putting a lot of heat in a small area. Say you want to bend a piece of metal and you're trying to heat a line. The rosebud is going to work a lot better if you're trying to get a lot of heat in a small area on a thick plate. But if you're trying to heat up something, this big, you're trying to put a lot of heat, that weed burner torch does a trick. And actually turn the end of this right here on the other side red with it. I was trying to get that ball after I mushroomed the end here. That ball would not move, and I turned it red and took this bolt and stuck in here and hit it with a hammer in order to loosen it up a little bit like this. And so I've got it now where it's free and it'll work, because that's another thing that's very aggravating. If you've ever had a tractor with the ends of this gets damaged where this ball won't move freely, and say it's cocked up like this and you're trying to get this arm to go on your pin, and if you ever had an old tractor, you probably run into this, and that's what you run into when you got to take a hammer and try to get it. But so these should move pretty freely like that, and that way you can get it hooked up. And obviously most of the time you wind up using the hammer or trying to kick the arm or whatnot with your foot to get it on there. I find the hammer works pretty good. And occasionally, or eventually, when the tractor gets really wore out, I've seen these balls fall completely out of the thing, and people start welding around here because the hitch gets so wore that the ball will fall out of there, and they actually sell replacement ends. You can cut these off and replace them, but that's usually on super high hour tractors, and most people these days didn't run into anything like that. But I've seen it on a lot of older tractors, worked on some older stuff. But anyway, so thought this help somebody out on if they buy a tractor with the locked up arms or froze up arms, or if they just bought a tractor and they're trying to keep something like this from happening, kind of a preventative maintenance, which would I prefer, because that's a lot easier than trying to correct the problem afterwards. Found some Teflon lubrication over there. I'm gonna put some of that on there. I think that'll work probably pretty good, I would think. Put some around that ball there too, just because. Well, got to get all this stuff picked up, cleaned up, everything. I think that's going to work out pretty good and make my job of getting the implement hooked up a whole lot easier. Next to impossible though it was. So anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video.